There's a new eating disorder on the block, and this one is often disguised as a healthy lifestyle: orthorexia. You gain tons of praise from those around you, but deep down you recognize the struggle that accompanies your eating, exercise, and the anxiety you feel when you deviate from this. So today we're talking about orthorexia, this controversial eating disorder. Managing an eating disorder can be a lonely journey. For in-depth information and strategies for managing your eating disorder, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell in the corner so you're notified when I publish a new video every Wednesday. I'm Meredith McKenzie of Parallel Wellness. I'm a registered clinical counselor, eating disorders therapist, and doctoral graduate student. In my work with hundreds of clients with eating disorders, I've supported them to loosen the grips of their eating disorder so they can find freedom from food and compensatory behaviors. Now it's your turn. I've had requests from my audience on this channel for videos on orthorexia, so I'm excited to start my series on orthorexia on this channel. Before we get started, I want to provide a disclaimer. While I am a registered clinical counselor and I work with clients with eating disorders in my practice, the information in this video is for informational and educational purposes only. If you are concerned that you may be struggling with an eating disorder, please reach out to a professional, a medical doctor, a therapist, anyone who specializes in eating disorders for help today. Orthorexia. Some of you might be familiar with this term, and others it might be something new for you. Orthorexia was originally coined by Dr. Stephen Bratman about 20 years ago. He took the root ortho, which means right, to describe what he was recognizing in some of his patients that he was working with. He felt that this word reflected the obsession with food and eating the right things that he was witnessing in the work with his patients. Dr. Bratman was an alternative medical provider who at the time was working with clients in all different ways to help pursue a better lifestyle and a healthy lifestyle. And he found with a subset of his patients who were really pursuing a healthy lifestyle, these patients were inadvertently actually harming themselves on a psychological level because they were so obsessive and excessive with their food rigidity. What started as a healthy lifestyle actually developed into a rigid, fearful, and self-punishing way of eating and approaching food and managing food in their lifestyle. Dr. Bratman also found that with these clients, this focus on food and focus on health and eating the right thing actually reduced the overall dimensionality of their lives and who they were as people. They became so focused on this that it took up a large portion of their days and their thinking and gave a lot of power to their diet. And what was particularly interesting to Dr. Bratman as he was developing this idea of orthorexia were that his clients really associated eating the right thing, eating healthily, with being virtuous, doing the right thing as well, and how they evaluated themselves and their own self-worth. So if they were to deviate from this way of eating, that they felt as though they were doing something wrong or criminal. Now this might sound familiar for anyone who struggles with an eating disorder, even if it's not orthorexia, that we start to make a relationship with the food that we're eating and how we evaluate ourselves and our own self-worth. And when we deviate from this, we can feel really, really badly, guilty, shame, all kinds of really heavy emotions. Like other restrictive eating disorders, such as anorexia or nervosa, orthorexia has some rules that people must follow. And these rules are really subjective depending on what the person personally prescribes to and what they deem to be the right way to be eating. This could mean for some people that they restrict themselves to eating only fruits and vegetables. In other situations, it might be a vegan diet, or eating only in a keto diet. Along with this comes a focus on what is right in terms of what the health industry tells people to be eating. So it might mean the person consumes more vitamins or more minerals, really making sure that they're taking lots of supplements. Other people might really focus on eating only organic foods. Where this becomes disordered is when someone's beliefs about what is the right thing to be eating and what is the wrong thing to be eating starts to impact how they feel about themselves and the behaviors that they engage in. And this is where foods like eating clean come in, because there's a lot of emotion that's associated with these words that tell us what is right to do, and therefore if we do the right thing, we will be good people. And this can impact a person's behavior, because if you strongly believe these things, it's very difficult to then step outside of the lines and eat something different. So that might mean that a person might isolate themselves from their friends or decline invitations to go to certain restaurants because they're not able to eat within the very rigid rules that their orthorexia has prescribed to them. There's also the potential that it could impact your physical well-being, because if you're eliminating large groups of food, then you might not be getting essential nutrients that you're needing to be able to be actually healthy. Now, it's important to point out that orthorexia is not a diagnosis that's found in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders, Edition 5, the DSM-5, which is what doctors and medical professionals use to diagnose mental health disorders. It's kind of on the fringes of an eating disorder at this point. And what is important to know from this is that even though people are talking about specific rules or eating in very specific ways, and that could be identified as orthorexia, that I don't want to blanketly say that anybody who eats these types of foods or eats in this way has an eating disorder, because that's not true. What really stands out for somebody who has orthorexia, rather than just eating in a particular way, is that someone with orthorexia has those other components of the emotional factors that really cause them to feel a lot of shame and guilt when they eat in a different way other than what their orthorexia has told them to, and that they engage in behaviors that are restrictive. So a simple way to sum it up is it's not the theory of eating well or eating nutritiously or eating in a right way that is pathological or challenging or even a problem. It is the reaction to this theory and how rigid, how focused, and how consumed a person becomes with eating in a healthy way. Now, comment below and let me know your thoughts about orthorexia as a possible eating disorder to include in the DSM. Also, based on your experiences, does it feel different than anorexia nervosa? Is it its own disorder in your opinion? Now, I argue, similar to other eating disorders, where dieting alone does not simply cause an eating disorder to occur for somebody, that the same could be said about orthorexia, that focusing on a nutrient-rich, focused way of eating doesn't cause orthorexia. Many people experiment with and follow diets for a long period of time that might be focused on eating a specific food group or eating in a very prescribed way. And they do all this without developing orthorexia. However, the key point is that following this nutrient-rich, focused way, very rigid way of eating is a prerequisite for developing orthorexia. So it's not that it causes it, but it is an important factor. In one of the articles I was reading by Dr. Bratman, he makes a really interesting observation about how our society's perception of health and fitness has really morphed over time. And in many ways, the health and fitness industry actually now promote very unhealthy ways or unhealthy ideals for fitness and health. Historically, physical fitness described a person's ability to physically exert themselves without losing their breath, such as walking up a hill or up a flight of stairs. However, for many of us these days, our pursuit of health focuses as much on appearance as it does on our body's physical functioning, and more so sometimes. Beyond the focus on diet, over-exercising has become a growing symptom of orthorexia. It's this shift in how we think about fitness and health that has opened the door for disordered eating and orthorexia, and I believe has led orthorexia to appear and present more and more like anorexia nervosa. And while orthorexia is not an official eating disorder, it does have characteristics that seem to span the spectrum of eating disorders. In next week's video, I'm going to be comparing clinical anorexia nervosa with orthorexia and discussing some of the similarities and differences between the two. You're not going to want to miss that video, so stay tuned. If you're looking to get started on your eating disorder recovery journey, I've created a mindful eating log that I use in my practice with clients all the time, and I've provided a link for you in the description box down below where you can download a copy for yourself. If you've enjoyed this video, hit that like button, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and share this video with anyone who you think would benefit from learning more about eating disorders and orthorexia. This is the first video in my series on orthorexia, so please stay tuned next week where I'm going to be sharing more information. I look forward to seeing you in the next video on Wednesday.